go ahead and start sharing my screen if that's all right. Let's see.
One thing I like about these smaller groups too is it's a pretty good place to network and share. So if everyone's open to it, I'd kind of like us to just, come off mute and just share, like, name, where we're working, and are we already doing something like this, or are we looking to get into something like this? Is everyone okay with that? Cool. Taylor, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm Charles Taylor. Most of my friends call me Taylor. I am the project coordinator or a project coordinator at Riverside County Office of Education, and in Central California. And I am, I guess, I don't really have an official title with the league yet, but I like to call myself the Stanislaus County Liaison. So I'm part of the expansion of the league. So, and I am a casual gamer, console gamer more. I've rage quit too many games to play online. So I'm trying to get better.
Thank you. I'll go next. My name is Richard Woodruff, and I'm with San Joaquin County Office of Education as a coordinator in continuous improvement and support. But one of the things that I do is I am also the commissioner for this particular league, the Central California Esports League. I used to be a pro gamer. I used to be an elitist jerk, recovering from that. And in my time in recovering from that, I tried to start to give back, doing trainings and outreach, and being a part of this league is kind of part of that. And I'm working with wonderful people like Taylor as we start to expand into other counties. And I will pass it to Rachel.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Rachel Fambro. I'm the virtual learning coordinator at Bakersfield City School District. I previously worked at Kern County Office Ed as the academic technology coordinator, but now I'm back at BCSD. And I actually came to the Esports Symposium last year and started that conversation with teachers and the IT team and the after extended learning program. And because we're on pandemic, unfortunately, we weren't able to kind of get up and running. But now we're finally to the point where we plan on ordering 3 carts of 30 PCs, or what are those things called? Laptops, and to pilot it at 3 different junior highs and at least try to run 1 league and get feedback. So a year later, we're finally getting to pilot. But I think that this event was actually the catalyst for that. So that's kind of where we are.
Very cool. Thank you, Rachel. Hi, Dennis. Nice of you to join us. We're just getting into some introductions as we have a nice cozy room.
Yeah, it's awesome. Good to see Michelle and Charles and yeah, everybody. Awesome.
Thank you. So Quentin Bradley just joined. Are you okay with a brief introduction, Quentin? Name, where you're at, and what kind of experience do you have with esports in schools?
If you're at a place where your mic's not working or you're having audio issues, if you want to type that into the chat, that would be great.
Mm-hmm. There we go. Our esports club advisors at Lakeside High School. Cool.
Right,
awesome. Thank you, Quentin.
First year, right on.
Oh, cool. Okay. And I see some other Lakeside Legion that joined us. Are you all from maybe the same team or group?
I'm glad Rachel asked that. I was just thinking that. Where is Lakeside?
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say by a lake. Okay, same group. Cool.
Why is Dr. Woodruff? Yeah.
SoCal, right on.
Yeah,
All right, cool.
Expert in deduction.
Uh,
Okay, in SoCal, cool. Cool, well, if anyone else wants to share a little bit about themselves, just go ahead and throw it into chat. Oh, okay, there's Kevin. Kevin,
Vista.
Rancho Vista High School, continuation high school. Oh, I'm so happy to hear about another continuation school interested.
Yeah,
Nice.
Tenacity, California.
Riverside County.
Oh, yeah,
Awesome.
awesome, thank you. Cool, well, yeah, well, we're gonna talk a little bit about continuation and alternative ed schools as well. Cool, Taylor, do you wanna?
Yeah,
go
so
ahead
let's get started. And then as we kind of go along, we just introduced ourselves, but this is Richard and I. That's our emails. I didn't actually check with Richard before I threw it on here, but I'm just going to go out on a limb and say it was all right. The reason we want to make sure that you guys have them, please. Twitter handles. I'll put them in chat. I'll put mine in chat.
I'll put mine in later.
Oh, we got Cochran, California CTE teacher. Nice, Charles.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, we have a few CTE teachers
Games and
joined.
simulation and esports. All right, Charles. We are, not only is your name cool, but your program sounds awesome. We do want to make sure that as we go along, we want to make sure that you have our contact information so you can contact us, get in touch with us, share resources, let us know, even tell us how it's going. And much like you're doing in Riverside, we want to make sure that we're kind of championing that in Northern California too, and really make a concerted effort to have kind of a coalition throughout the state of California of like-minded individuals that can help with esports and students. Some of these materials, we're all, I'm assuming, I know the problem with that, but we're all here for the same reason. So some of these slides we're not really going to cover because they're about why esports is important. However, Richard and I kind of talked and we left them in here because we've used these when we've presented to groups that may not necessarily understand what esports are. So if you're just starting out, feel free to crib this stuff, use it as you see fit. There's some infographics, some videos and some statistics and stuff that might be able to help with that conversation wherever and whenever you're having that. But some other resources, you will notice that the ETC page, we're adding our California League to it, but we have a link to our California Esports homepage. So if you'd like to peruse that, we just updated it with our new teams that have added this, and then our contact directory, also with our schedule. So if you're interested in watching some of our matches, please feel free. So kind of what we're going to
profile will be added.
I appreciate it. I don't photograph well. What we're going to cover today is we want to do a quick intro into our league and kind of what makes us different, sharing our mission and vision, as well as where we're headed to the future. Talk a little bit about the Stanislaus and SAC expansion, and then we'd like to open it up and talk to you guys about where you are, what you're doing, and ways that we can kind of, like I said, foster this state relationship between Northern and Southern California, and really help champion the idea of bringing esports to everyone in a way that is a positive experience for everyone involved. So, Richard, do you want to start with a little bit of the history?
Sure. Yeah, so this all, like, as far as our league and everything, all started with a student who was delivering a message to a principal while I was having a meeting with this principal about next fiscal planning for education technology. So he just dropped off something and looked at the principal and said, "Is this the guy?" And the principal nodded his head and said, "Yeah, go ahead." And so he's like, "Okay." And he gave me his 30-second elevator pitch. He was super excited, super pumped up. And he's like, "This is super important to us. I've done my homework. I have presentations. I'm ready to go. Can we have a sit down? Can we present this, that, and the other?" And I said, "Okay, let me look into it." And I did my due diligence. And at the time, there was only about 90 or so colleges and universities offering scholarships But that was enough for me to say, hey, there's additional scholarships, maybe we should do something with this. So met with them. We had a town hall with parents. They did their presentation, and it's pretty much just been the core mantra for our league is that it's been student led since the beginning. And so their voice, we're just kind of giving them kind of a safe place to play in, and a little bit of structure. And we'll talk more about that later. But we started out with just two schools, two rival schools. But before we even got going, we heard about another school that wanted to participate. And so we really only started with three schools, spanning three districts. And the following year, it just kind of blew up, where we're adding exponentially more and more schools every season, every year. And I think now we're just over like 22-ish or something. And we're probably about to pull in another 12 or so real soon. And then we're going to be partnering with Sacramento and going on from there as well.
Just to add on to that, I won't. I was working in Lodi Unified at the time when we presented to a group of admin at an admin meeting about esports, and I jokingly said that I'm really interested to see how these admin respond to it. And one of the league board members, Edith Holbert, did a dynamite job, explained it, and within 10 minutes had almost every single admin in the room saying we want in. And what was gratifying was a lot of them either had kids that were gamers or they themselves were gamers, which is awesome. And to see that admin support, that has really helped grow the league as well. Is that it's not just the kids calling for it, it's not just the parents coming in and saying how amazing this is for my kids, but it's also having that partnership with our admin and our teachers to really champion that and make it a unique experience.
I got to do one quick piggyback on that. You mentioned Edith. So Edith works at one of our districts. She's the IT director, and she's really helped in the respect that Taylor was sharing, but she's also a parent. And she was one of the first parents that was one of those parents that asked me a billion questions at one of our town halls. And for about 30 minutes, it became her and I having a conversation in a room of like 60, 70 people, which I thought was really a really neat experience. She asked really good questions, and I feel like that, once her concerns were addressed, that this was a purposeful thing, it's all about student voice and inclusion, and then she became one of our biggest supporters.
So talking about our league, we started out with really Spire Ben Holt, Langston Hughes, and Tokay, and you can see this is as of last week. This is what we've grown into, and like Richard has said, we're Modesto City Schools. We're in talks with them last week, and they have, barring any terrible things happening, knock on wood, 8 of their high schools are expected to join us within the next year. They're also looking at possibly, and we'll kind of go into where we're growing, but that's 8 schools, not just comprehension, but also independent study programs and continuation schools. So me and I again, another thing, Richard and I kind of joke about this. We had similar backgrounds as far as where we taught. We both taught in alternative schools. I taught in continuation schools when I first started out, and it is still one of my absolute favorite places that I've worked was actually Plaza Robles continuation school. And so this is not, our league is not really, it's spec for everyone. So it doesn't matter the size of your school, whether it's 200 students or 2,000 students, that everyone gets a chance to compete on an equal footing. So this has been really fun to see. We have charter academies, small schools. Valley Robotics is one of our schools that just started in Lodi. I think they're only 2 years old, and I think they have a student body of around 40 or 50 kids. So it's a really fun thing to see this grow. And also this partnership is really built around the idea that all of these schools, yeah, they compete when it comes to compete, but all of them are mentors to one another. So our coaches are constantly helping and supporting one another. Toke John Medina has been a huge impact and influence on new coaches and helping them help start and square away their teams. So that's another thing that, this is a total sales pitch and an unabashed sales pitch, and why our league is amazing. So take that for what it is.
One quick thing I want to mention, if you can go back one, is that the SJCOE 1 combo school. I'm particularly excited for them participating now, because it's our first court and community schools that joined. And so the reason why it's a combo is because we had some at one school and some at another school. And so we had to kind of bring them together. And that's one of the cool things about, esports platforms, is connecting them, with a VoIP. We use Murmur and Mumble. They're allowed to, it's like they're playing side by side. And we also have Prometheans with cameras so that they can kind of see each other while they're playing. And it's just really exciting for them to have an opportunity that, historically I've heard that court and community schools are typically never able to play traditional schools. So I was really excited about that.
So, and again, I think we all understand, and we all are here because esports is an important thing. So again, this is kind of like some of the materials that we showed to our different school boards, parent groups, teachers, even IT departments, believe it or not, in some cases of like, because it does require support at all levels. Talking about, as Richard said, before, more than 30 colleges are offering scholarships. And for a lot of our students that have never even thought about going to college, to say you can go to college because you play video games, that is an absolutely exciting thing. And it can open a lot of doors. It can bring some of our students, again, talking about our continuation school, our community schools, our independent studies kids that don't normally necessarily feel like a part of a regular campus, that they actually get to take part in something with kids from other campuses. It is a really powerful thing.
I just want to touch, that might have been my typo. It's actually over 300 colleges and universities now.
No, it's probably 100%. I'm willing. I'll jump on the hand grenade. Not the best speller and not really great at math. That's why I teach history. So,
and I'm sure it's growing. There's a lot of opportunities for our kids through esports. Again,
some a Forbes article, a CNBC op-ed piece, and then some interesting articles. So if you are having that conversation and you're thinking about, well, I need to sell this to parents, I need to sell this to admin, I want to get the, feel free to take the resources and use them. This is a fun video. It kind of talks about how global this is. We've also in this presentation is linked to a promo video that Richard and Edith put together for the initial partnership to kind of show others to help out with that conversation as well. So that's here for your use. And a couple of infographics. If you click on these, it'll take you to a file that you guys can copy and use. So really into our vision and mission, and our vision and mission is kind of built around these underpinning ideas. So the first is it's free. Our league, we really are built on the idea that this should not cost kids to play. This isn't pay to play. Right? Pay to play. Yes, I said it correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want kids to be able to take part like they would in any other sport or activity at school. And we're not passing that cost off onto them. We also want to empower them. We want to empower students with the idea that they're building teamwork skills, they're building collaboration, and they're building themselves as better digital citizens. Equity, we want all students in all schools to compete on equal footing. Again, talking about one of my favorite schools, Plaza, as a continuation school, they played in our championship on their first year against the biggest school in our district, and handled themselves quite well. I think it came down to a 2-1 victory. They barely got beat in that. So it is really gratifying to see the small schools that are may not necessarily always be able to compete an equal footing in other sports, this is an arena where they can. Also, the idea of equality. Our league is, one of our underpinnings has always been that everyone is welcome, no matter who you are, what walk of life you come from, what side of the tracks you live on. Everybody online is the same. So if as long as you're good behind the keyboard, you got a place on the team. And even if you're not good behind the keyboard, you still got a place on the team, because you can always get better.
Yep.
Also, we're growing with the idea and really working to make it culturally relevant, because we know how important esports is to our students. We want to meet those students where they are. We want to encourage participation. We want to get we want to get more participation from underrepresented groups that, again, may not necessarily feel plugged into a regular campus setting, or traditional sports may not be their thing. Traditional clubs may not necessarily be their thing, but we want to make sure that our teams represent the schools that they're from and the communities from where these kids live. And the last one really is building this community. It's promoting positive community, both in the digital frame and in real life, not only for the students, but also for the coaches and the admins as well. I can speak for my own self. I've met some amazing educators from different parts of that. I worked next to these people, for most of my career, just in the next district, and never really knew them. But this league has allowed us to all come together in a collegiate atmosphere and look at each other as equals and experts, and together work to build something amazing for the kids. So I think that's a lot.
Yeah.
We're gonna go on. So a few things about as far as how the league is structured. It's a collective. Every school has an equal say in how the league is run. And again, this is, as of last week, it was 22. Hopefully within a couple of weeks, it'll actually half again as many will be added to it. Currently, it's from San Joaquin and Stanislaus counties. As Richard mentioned, we are expanding into Sacramento soon, probably by the end of next year. We're currently playing League of Legends with Valorant and Rocket League to be added in the spring. So, and that doesn't mean that a team necessarily has to play all the games. Some of the teams will only be playing League of Legends. Some of the teams have already said we're only really interested in Valorant or Rocket League, depending on what their setup is and the amount of students that are involved. What's been really interesting lately is a lot more discussion about different games and bringing in those different games. Again, all of those decisions go back to the collective as a whole, and having this robust discussion about what's the best. Rules were just changed, I think, about a week and a half ago from a group vote, because it would be seen as being better for kids and a little bit more equitable and a little bit easier for them to access, allowing to use controllers. The league voted, the new rule has been instated. So this is a kind of a dynamic league where everyone gets a fair say.
Mm-hmm. And one thing real quickly that I want to touch on regarding the Lawrence and Rocket League is that was systemic of an internal equity audit that we did. Because originally we were just focusing on League of Legends because it's like the #1 professional opportunity video game on the planet right now. And same with college scholarships. And so it was safe, it's got low hardware requirements. And so we thought, we'll just do that. But one of our team, he started looking into it, investigating it, and found that the primary demographic of student groups or young adults who play those games were typically Caucasian and Asian, or identified as such. And so then we started realizing, well, maybe we're inadvertently excluding some of our other student groups by not offering more of a sports type game and or a first person shooter type game. And so we've been super afraid of going with a first person shooter game. And it really came down to the data and the student voice that all of our student groups play first person shooters. And so if there's a way that we can provide a safer, more digital citizenship savvy environment to use a first person shooter, then perhaps it's better for the community as well as for the students. And that's why we decided upon Valorant. Originally, we were looking into Overwatch, but Overwatch has a paywall behind it or contracts that you have to get into with other affiliates to play it. And it's incredibly confusing. If you're not an Overwatch player and you're watching people play Overwatch, you probably will not understand what's really going on. Whereas in Valorant, it's also very cartoonized. Graphic violence is very limited, but you can understand what they're doing. It's 5 players against 5 players. They're all trying to achieve some type of capture the flag and defend it. So outside spectators can see that and understand it, because that's one thing we found that's really helped our league grow is the community that's watching it, being able to do things in a way to where our shoutcasters are explaining it in a way to where grandparents and parents can watch this and understand what's going on.
Our teams aren't clubs. They are high school sports teams. So that was one thing that we really challenged. And I will say that some admins had, that was a little harder sell for some than others. But this idea that this is not an after school club, that there are academic requirements, that it is a high school sports team. However, part of that equity and part of that idea is that even though it is a high school sports team, and yes, there are academic requirements like everywhere else, within the league bylaws, it says that if the admin signs off, the admin has the rights to say, yes, you may necessarily didn't make your 2.0, but you're darn close and you've been showing up every day. We want you on the team. We want you to play. And that's not necessarily to get those students that are the better players. That's to get some of our students that are not necessarily always attending school on a regular basis, our continuation school or community school kids. Those kids let's give them a reason to be on campus. Let's give them a reason to take part and be at school. And what we've seen is their grades come up to match. And so that's one thing that we've really tried hard. It also gives those students the pride and the sense of ownership in the team, that this is not an after school club that you can, drop in and drop out of, but no, you're making a commitment not only to the school, you're making a commitment to your teammates. And it's really been great to see those kids sport their jerseys, on game day, even in our, my small continuation school, that had, a little less than 200 students. On game day, the entire team would wear their jerseys and wear them proudly. We do provide an equitable playing field for diverse populations of high school students. Like we said, everyone is welcome. There's no requirement. There's not you don't necessarily need to be a top tier elite player to join the team. But we want everyone to feel like they have a chance of taking part. And this is the nice thing too, all the schools compete at the same level. So it doesn't matter your student body, it doesn't matter, you're all using relatively the same hardware, you're playing the same game. So it is more equitable in as far as a skill based. The other thing that we really have championed within the league is that every school plays against every other school at least once during the season. And this means that, and unlike some pay for play leagues, that you may, you play 3 times, and if you don't win, you're out. In our league, you're playing at least 8 or 9 other schools. You're getting a lot more play time for the kids and for the game, which means that their expertise is going to go up. They're going to feel more engaged, and again, that's no cost for that. The other thing that we have really enjoyed, and these are 2 ex-students that are both players that actually were shoutcasters at our second annual county championship. But we fostered the idea that as part of the team is the digital journalism side of shoutcasting. So those schools have now started recruiting within the league, are recruiting shoutcasters that will host the Twitch streams, that will talk about the game and get the audience engaged, as well as then providing them an avenue to, again, earn scholarships for those campuses that are looking for shoutcasters. And they have become an amazing ambassador for the sport too, because now we have now it's not just us championing that this is important. We have kids that are championing it, that are able to communicate out and write, articles for school newspapers, talking to friends and family, posting up on social media, and they're doing it in a way that is helping to grow the sport from within.
And real quickly, I just want to shout out that the shoutcaster on the left is Noah, aka Arcshot, who is the student that gave me the elevator pitch, and is also become kind of a shoutcaster ambassador, such that whenever we have, we won't be doing it this January, but probably in May, and then subsequent years we'll be going back to our in-person events. He will be shoutcasting with new shoutcasters, kind of like on-ramping them and helping to build their shoutcasting brand and name, etc.
Sorry, I had to stop sharing for some reason. My screen went away.
And I appreciate Dennis sharing that what Riverside is doing as well. That's one thing that we've always been sharing, is that we're not like, you can't just only play with us. If you want to play on other leagues, we totally condone that, because we don't really see it an or statement. It's more of like a, and statement. Because what NASEF offers and Riverside offers, and even Play Versus and the other high school league, they offer something different, which is playing on more of a tournament structure that's more overreaching. So if you want to maybe play students in Tennessee or something, then that might be a better fit for you. Whereas our thing is more of localized and having that voting component as well.
About the requirements, we found that most schools have a pre-existing computer lab with the equipment that's adequate, at least for League of Legends, especially now. The only kind of roadblock to that is a lot of our smaller schools got rid of their computer labs to go with Chromebooks, and this is where district and leadership support really comes in, because again, I can speak to my old district, Lodi Unified, with Edith as the head of technology, has really stepped in and helped find revenue streams to help some of those schools that may not necessarily have the ready cash to set up a small lab. Well, and again, we're in the midst of the pandemic, so it's a slightly different, but even for smaller schools being able to share facilities on off days or bye weeks or things like that. So, but that's another reason why we went with League of Legends to start out with, is because the requirements were relatively lower comparatively. Now, non-tech requirements, and we do have, at the end of the presentation, we have a link to all of our specs requirements, and then some of like what we would say like league recommended material. So like here's the keyboard we like and the mouse we like, those kind of things. But what we said to join the team is that you have to have at least one staff member as coach. And notice we said staff member because, again, some of our smaller schools, we don't necessarily have a teacher that can, or an admin that would be able to do that. So we're really encouraging that a school looks maybe beyond who normally would champion this. As long as they're able to help out with kids, then they can be a coach. Supporting administration is always a big one. So having those discussions and getting in early to make those partnership, we want to make sure that the admin is on board and that really can champion the idea of what the league is built around, instead of, well, I'm interested in having it, but I really want it to be a club. We do stress that the coaches are the advocates for their student gamers. They don't need to be experts in the team. In fact, I would imagine, and Richard can back me up on this, we've had, I think, a good chunk of the coaches that are currently coaching never touched League of Legends before they started coaching, and now are really becoming a lot more comfortable with the game. Some of us are still not past level 4 and are still trying to get out of the screener, but I'll get there someday, I promise. And I think that's the fun thing, is that really you don't need to be an expert in the games. All you need to be is a supportive person for the kids, and giving them a place and a helping hand is really what's the most important thing. But the requirement is that a coach will represent their team or their school at a regular meeting of the league as a voting member, and that's currently is 2 times a year. One of the things that we're working on is possibly doing that smaller regional meetings to talk about things that are going on close as we get more geographical area and looking at logistics, but that's down the road. Again, that's our starter, that's our current starting roster of teams that we talked about.
One quick thing, if you could go back, because what we're talking about in the chat with streaming. So the purple writing, those are all the Twitch handles.
Oh, yeah.
From all of the schools who are currently doing shoutcasting. Which as Dennis was sharing too, they're doing the same thing, and we highly recommend it. But doing that, we have special suggestions, such as you have to use a staff or a teacher machine or login account using something like OBS going to a Twitch thing. And that you also have your coach or an adult or a staff member moderating the chat to make sure, because this is representing your school out live on public. So we got to make sure that everything is PG. But if you're interested in any of that, let us know.
Yeah, I think Richard makes sorry, Charles.
No.
I think Richard makes a good point there. And so, but I do encourage people to think about ways to try it. I always go back to, you can't teach a kid to swim on the pool deck, right? You need to let them in the pool. And so, but at the same time, we want a lifeguard on duty, we want to be safe. So there are ways to try things out and ways to model and teach students. Yeah.
And it goes back to that, I think we've all heard that is it's the same arguments we've been having with the internet and YouTube and search engines since we've had computers in our classroom, of like, they could do terrible things on them. Yes. And they could stab a kid with a pencil just as easily as they could watch something terrible on the internet. And I love what you said about, we have to allow them a little bit of space to experiment and play, but that doesn't mean let them off by themselves. And now, that can be scary for some of our staff that are not gamers themselves or not familiar with I mean, we've had that conversation with coaches of when we say we'd love you to have a Twitch stream, and then they ask, well, what's Twitch? Well, no problem. Let's go through that conversation as well. But a little bit of guidance and really making it an event. Again, having your admin, having your school, having your community be part of it. The kids already know how to act. They do it every day. So that's just an extension of that. And I think that's the clear delineation between a club, and I'm not knocking clubs because it's an important thing to have our kids, and it can have a positive effect. But when we put even the pastiche of it, it's a sport, and our admin's watching, and we have this, and our name's covering it, then it becomes the kids understand already a pre-built rules that are established for every other activity that's run by the school. Now where we're going, and I'm really excited because there's a few of us that volunteered for this, and we have no idea what we're doing. So here comes the sales pitch on top of a sales pitch. We're trying to expand the league into really a junior high feeder program. We have a lot of our elementaries and our junior highs that have video game clubs and console clubs, and we're trying to create kind of a think tank group to work out some logistics to create the Central California Junior High Expansion Feeder League. We're still workshopping names, but the idea is that we want the junior highs that would create and help start fostering these ideas for the league to get the kids ready for when they go to high school, just like some of our junior highs are doing with their regular sports. What we're working right now is we're working on making sure that wherever we go, we're compliant with any COPA and FERPA compliance. And we want to make sure that everything is student data privacy safe, as well as keeping in line with the competitiveness, and the overall feel for the esports in general. We have some student data privacy concerns and questions around certain things that are not necessarily the same concerns for the 13 or older crowd or our high school players. So if you are interested in joining a partnership from Northern California, there is a link in our presentation. Please fill it out and give us your contact. We'd love you to be a part of it, and we'd share anything we do. But or if you're doing junior high things, we've talked about something as simple as the old Twin Galaxies, sending in your high scores or your best times, and creating county-wide player boards, and then a few times a year having live events when we're able to come back and do live events. But we really, our end goal is we'd like to have the same kind of feel as the esports high school teams.
One thing I just want to piggyback
Yeah.
real quick on, in talking about student privacy and whatnot. I go to a lot of these conversations, and I'm always hearing about clubs that are using Discord. So I really have to strongly recommend that if any of you are using Discord or allowing Discord to be used for any of your club activities or potential sport activities, you should probably not do that, especially officially. Sanction it, as your school or district or whatnot, because Discord owns all of Discord's information. And so students using VoIP or any communication over that, it is not protected. And you could be opening up yourself to potential liability. That's why we use an open source voice over IP called Murmur and Mumble. Murmur's the server, Mumble's the end user client.
And as we were saying, this is just a link. Fill this out. We'd love to keep in correspondence with you and share ideas. If you're interested, again, total shameless plug, because it currently is called the Central California Esports League. Doesn't mean it has to say Central. If you're interested in joining a partnership, and if you have a team or you're just starting out a team and you'd like to maybe get your feet wet with this and see how it works and maybe see it from the inside, we'd love to have you as a part of it. If you're interested in the junior high expansion and would like to see how it's built from the ground up and have a hand in that, again, the more hands make lighter work. Please fill us out. Some resources we gave you. This is our core rule book. It's kind of old school as far as it's a Google Doc, because I like Google Docs. But it's gone through a couple of iterations and some updates. We have our startup, and this is the SCO startup list. It's the same thing as the regular list. This is just what I handed out to my prospective teams that we were trying to recruit. We have our CCEL homepage. If you're interested in watching the League of Legends, the season 3 League of Legends championships, it's here. I highly recommend it. It is absolutely hilarious. The Shoutcasters do such an amazing job. And as somebody who did not know League of Legends before I started this, to sit in an audience of about 120 kids and a good 50 adults, and most of us adults had no clue what was going on, absolutely, but had the best day ever. There's an ARAM tournament that was done during COVID that was really fun to watch, and it connected our kids in a way that they were kind of denied for a while. And again, this is the great thing about esports, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but we can continue when the football team can't play because of COVID, the esports team still can. So this is an avenue that, rain, sleet, snow, or shine, it doesn't matter. You just have to have stable Wi-Fi is honestly the only thing you need. There's, as I mentioned earlier, it's a CCEL promo video that was really great. Richard and Edith put it together. It's a really fun video, and it can answer some of those questions. And might give you some ideas for something you'd like to put together to have those conversations at your own area. And then I put links again. We use this when we kind of go around and talk to prospective teams and admins, but this is just, it's links to the League of Legends of Lorient and the Rocket League home pages. So we talked a lot. Sorry about that. But
hi, Charles. I'm sorry. Yes, I actually have to start closing out this session.
Oh, shoot.
We have
Can you give
another
us
one
5
starting
minutes?
shortly.
Or 4 minutes or 2 minutes?
Huh.
Sure.
Can you give us 2 minutes? Andy?
Sure,
It's
sure.
scheduled until 4 o'clock. But
Oh, we
if you
are.
need-
Oh, I
need
thought it
2
was
minutes-
4:15. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you guys need a minute to wrap up something up or get to something, go ahead.
Well, no, just wanted to see if there was any questions or anything that we can answer before we shuffle off.
Taylor, just drop your email real quick.
Oh, yeah. Or that's my email, and then my Twitter handle is
I don't even remember my Twitter handle. man. I need to get back into it.
I'd give you my gamer tag, but I have to change my gamer tag because I misspelled it, and it's embarrassing. So I got to pay the $10 to go ahead and change it.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Mindy.
Thank you.
Take care, and have fun helping students out with more esports opportunities.
Yeah, we look forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you, Dennis,
you,
very
guys.
much. Thank you,
Thanks,
Mindy,
guys.
for the help.